So yesterday, the Pentagon's UFO Office AARO, or the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, released the, quote, report on the historical record of U.S. government involvement with unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP Volume 1. Just sounds like a freaking horror movie. The report noted that, quote, AARO found no evidence that any U.S. government investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology, also noting that, quote, all investigative efforts at all levels of classification concluded that most sightings were ordinary objects and phenomena the result of misidentification. And perhaps one of the most telling statements, quote, AARO determined, based on all information provided to date, that claims involving specific people, known locations, technological tests, and documents allegedly involved in or related to the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology are inaccurate and was the result of circular reporting from a group of individuals who believe this to be the case despite the lack of any evidence. I mean, come on, really. This conclusion is absolutely no surprise considering where it comes from. AARO's former director, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. Now, the first thing everyone should consider is that Sean is replacing one conspiracy with another. Think about it. In his recent op-eds in Scientific American, Sean has gone full conspiracy theorist, spreading a wacky tale that a group of UFO zealots has hoodwinked Congress into believing that the government has a secret UFO crash recovery and back engineering program, convincing members like Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who, by the way, had zero interest in this topic. Now, Sean supposedly doesn't believe in this quote-unquote crash retrieval program conspiracy, but he promotes a conspiracy theory about Congress. It's a conspiracy theory he throws out with absolutely zero evidence, none. Sean Kirkpatrick is saying to you, trust me, bro, it's all a conspiracy. Don't worry about the evidence. The Pentagon has your back. How un-American. And how ignorant do Sean Kirkpatrick and the Pentagon think the American people are? What Sean Kirkpatrick is telling you is that a whole group of former high-ranking government officials, military veterans, and scientists with the nation's highest security clearances are willfully destroying their reputations and career based on some silly belief system to fool Congress. Was David Grusch, a decorated military intelligence official who held more security clearance tickets than just about anyone, duped? Was Senator Gillibrand duped? Was Senator Marco Rubio duped and other members of Congress? Was the Inspector General, who had the authority to investigate and see all of the classified data whistleblower David Grusch based his PPD-19 allegations on, duped? Well, that's what Sean Kirkpatrick wants you to believe with zero evidence. How arrogant is that? Now, speaking of evidence, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick said this to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand 1 year after taking the helm at AARO.
I should also state clearly for the record that in our research, AARO has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
Yeah. So Kirkpatrick has never stated, not once, what the AARO evidentiary standards are. Not once. Kirkpatrick tells Gillibrand there is no evidence of, quote, extraterrestrial activity. Sean, based on what evidentiary standards? What constitutes clear and compelling evidence to you of NHI? I mean, does Kirkpatrick need a freaking Klingon bird of prey to land in the Pentagon parking lot? What about his public statement regarding metallic orbs doing non-prosaic things? How about the material analysis he sent to Oak Ridge National Laboratory run by Battel's mouthful, Battelle Memorial Institute, which he later claimed was a missile casing? Where is Sean Kirkpatrick's evidence? Where is AARO's evidence? Did Kirkpatrick and Oak Ridge Battelle send the test data for peer review? Where are those peer-reviewed papers? Who fact-checked Oak Ridge National Laboratories with this material? We don't know. We have absolutely no idea because Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick wants you to trust him and the Pentagon and forget about the evidence. How hypocritical is that? Now, notice Kirkpatrick and company continue to use the phrase aliens and extraterrestrials. You even see this space aliens thing with Julian Barnes of the New York Times pushing, or more so parroting, Pentagon talking points. He does it all the time. Why? Because it allows Kirkpatrick and AARO, it allows them to leave out sort of other likely explanations that all of this is not from some distant planet. It is a sneaky, lawyerly way of avoiding accountability by having plausible deniability. Quote, we never said it was non-human intelligence. We said it wasn't space aliens or extraterrestrials. It is their get out of free jail card, so they are not liable for it being something else. And let's face it, I don't think any of us know where this is from. So you must ask yourself how Sean arrived at all these conclusions. After all, he stated that AARO had all the power needed to investigate this quote-unquote conspiracy. Kirkpatrick didn't tell you the whole truth. Now, while AARO was legally authorized to receive classified information on anything to do with UAP, it had zero, and I underline this, zero power to investigate it. Kirkpatrick has not been telling you the full truth. None, absolutely none of AARO's agents, including liaisons from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations and the FBI, had 1811 authority, or what is called special agent authority. Now, what does this mean? This means that AARO agents could not conduct search and seizure, they couldn't make arrests, they couldn't depose people, they couldn't subpoena anyone. So you ask yourself, how can Sean Kirkpatrick, how can AARO conduct a thorough investigation without 1811 authority? The answer is you can't. So while Sean technically had access to these programs, he could not legally demand to be read into those programs because he had no special agent authority, and the 40-ish people that work at AARO do not have that authority as well. Now, when it comes to special access program compartmentalization, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what compartment you don't have access to, and neither did Sean Kirkpatrick. The gatekeepers of the crash retrieval and back engineering program and its portfolio manager, the CIA, knew he had no power to enforce any of this. Do you really think these people who have been illegally hiding this for decades would just volunteer the goods to AARO? I mean, of course not. Kirkpatrick was impotent. Now, Kirkpatrick has repeatedly taken passive-aggressive shots at whistleblower David Grusch for not going to AARO. Now, first, David Grusch knew AARO did not have the investigative authority required. Grusch had already provided classified information and testimony to Congress and the Inspector General. This is new. It was also well known that advisor Sean Kirkpatrick brought onto AARO were and are under active investigation by the Inspector General. Let me repeat that. Advisor Sean Kirkpatrick brought onto AARO are under active investigation by the Inspector General. Now, Grusch testifying to AARO would likely have jeopardized those active investigations, and of course he wouldn't want to do that. Now, whistleblowers refusing to go to AARO infuriated Kirkpatrick. It humiliated Kirkpatrick. In November, Sean used a United States senator to try and squeeze David Grusch to go in and testify. So, Dave Grusch emailed AARO and the others on that group email and said to Kirkpatrick, look, I'm authorized to discuss any UAP special access programs, but Am I authorized to discuss with AARO the associated conventional programs that are part of the crash recovery program cover-up? You see, Dave would have had to have discussed with AARO the non-UAP related compartmented programs to explain the nested hierarchy of how the Pentagon and the CIA were hiding the crash recovery and back engineering programs from Congress. The reply to Dave from Kirkpatrick stated, quote, "We can receive any and all UAP related material." Dave said, "Fine. Please provide in writing that I am cleared and protected to discuss any classified non-UAP related programs." Kirkpatrick's reply, "We can handle everything, Dave. Just come on in. Trust me, bro." Kirkpatrick would not provide in writing to David Grusch that he was authorized and protected to discuss ancillary classified programs. Why? Because Kirkpatrick knew that getting those written authorizations from ODNI and others would take months, and Kirkpatrick's time was running out. Kirkpatrick, he was hell-bent on cleaning up those loose ends and getting Dave in the door of AARO, but refused to give written assurances to David Grusch that he was protected. Dave literally risked an unauthorized disclosure and jail time without written authorization to discuss the unrelated classified programs had he gone in and talked to Kirkpatrick and AARO. Now, it would have been a trap that Dave would have walked into less than 3 weeks. Think about that. 3 weeks before Sean's departure as head of AARO, and Grusch knew they would use his testimony to try and discredit him. Of course, Kirkpatrick, he just did that anyway. Now, word got around that Sean Kirkpatrick was sketchy as hell. And let's face it, he is sketchy as hell. And AARO was a Project Blue Book 2.0. Literally no one trusted Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and AARO, and for good reason. They went straight to the Inspector General to file PPD-19s. And as a matter of fact, we notified certain members of Congress that this was going on as early as May. So, Sean Kirkpatrick announced his retirement in November, but actually, Sean decided to do this much earlier, and the public doesn't know about this. What is not known is that Undersecretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks was wildly upset and pissed off at Kirkpatrick going off the reservation with his unhinged passive-aggressive LinkedIn post. So, Sean Kirkpatrick, as a to Undersecretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks, he decided right then to punch out at the end of the year, and soon after landed a cushy gig at Oak Ridge National Laboratories run by Battelle as Chief Technology Officer for Defense and Intelligence Programs. Now, what you may not know is that Sean Kirkpatrick at AARO gave huge sums of money to Oak Ridge National Labs and Battelle in exchange for material analysis and this is important, and for Oak Ridge National Laboratories and Battelle to provide advisors to AARO. He paid them to provide advisors to AARO. So now, think about this. Kirkpatrick is working for the agency he gave money to months ago. I mean, think about that. Talk about a conflict of interest. It's not only a conflict of interest, but it is actually illegal. U.S. Code Section 207 states former senior executive branch officials are prohibited from negotiating or accepting employment with any person or entity involved in a particular matter in which they were personally and substantially involved during the last year of their government service. This restriction applies for 2 years after leaving government service. And this is who Sean Kirkpatrick has been hired by. To top it off, Kirkpatrick is an unpaid advisor to AARO, which is a clear violation of the General Accountability Office's Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits people from working for free for the government. You just can't do that. So, All of this comes down to two possibilities, if you think about it. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick was hoodwinked and tricked by his advisors, or he was sent on a mission to torpedo AARO by turning it into Condon 2.0, lying to Congress and lying to you, the American people, in exchange for the reward of a nice retirement gig at Oak Ridge National Laboratories. Now, personally, I think it's the latter. One of Sean Kirkpatrick's key advisors at AARO was a gatekeeper of the crash retrieval program who worked out of the intelligence community. A gatekeeper, somebody that was involved with keeping all of this illegally hidden from Congress. Now, as a matter of fact, there were more than a few of these legacy program gatekeepers advising advising Kirkpatrick, which we revealed on the Good Trouble Show months ago. All of this begs to question, how did Sean Kirkpatrick know to bring these particular people in to advise AARO? Who told him to? Who told Sean Kirkpatrick to bring in gatekeepers to manage the henhouse? Also ask yourself this, what if Oak Ridge National Laboratories, Battelle Memorial Institute are part of the cover-up? The people Sean Kirkpatrick is now working for. Sean Kirkpatrick's former boss, Ronald Moultrie, was on the advisory board of Battelle, and funny enough, Moultrie had his links to Battelle erased on the internet after yours truly published his association with Battelle on the Good Trouble Show. This is the same Ronald Moultrie who testified to Congress about UAP as the head of the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security, the same office that has targeted whistleblowers, David Grusch, Lou Elizondo. This is also, which you don't know, is the same Ronald Moultrie who refused to be briefed on UAP before he showed up in front of Congress. He refused. He did not want to be briefed at all on the topic before he testified in front of Congress. Why? So he had plausible deniability in front of Congress. Moultrie lied to Congress by willful ignorance. You have to ask yourself, did Moultrie promise to reward Sean Kirkpatrick with a cushy gig if he went along with the cover-up? It's interesting, Moultrie abruptly left OUSDINS just 2 months after Kirkpatrick left. This absolutely surprised everyone. This guy was a lifer. Everyone expected him to run his tenure out to the end of this administration. It's shady as shit. Now, at the end of the day, we are left with the question of whether Sean Kirkpatrick was just incompetent or was doing the bidding of his minders. I can tell you from multiple people, no one, absolutely no one, liked Sean Kirkpatrick. These are people before ever dealing with him at AARO. Multiple people describe Sean Kirkpatrick as problematic, arrogant, an arrogant scientist who fancied himself a spy whose most important thing to him was being the most intelligent person in the room. What people should look into in FOIA is at Spacecom. He was Deputy J2 and was forced out, reportedly due to how difficult he was to work with. Now, for the longest time, I figured he was just the bumbling professor, but now, after his actions, this report, in my opinion, was part of the Pentagon and intelligence community machine that continues to lie to you and Congress about the reality of UFOs, the existence of a UFO crash recovery and back engineering program, and continues to lie and cover up CIA's involvement, their Office of Global Access that is involved in running this whole crash recovery operation. All of this report, this propaganda, this freezing out of journalists like Ross Coulthart, who will be on in a bit, and Chris Sharp and others that actually know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to this subject, Susan Go and the Pentagon froze them out, requiring the reporters that covered this to sign some kind of backroom deal that they wouldn't talk about this prior to it going public. That's propaganda. That is the same kind of bullshit that happened in the 50s and 60s with the CIA buying off reporters in order for them to publish CIA talking points. It's wrong. It's